is it can't get much better to have two drivers perform and have a finish like this. The other is the acid reflux that goes on with two successful competitive guys vying for the win of Indianapolis 500. That hadn't crossed your mind in the late stages.
Certainly. I mean, you know, we've led, you know, we've been 1-2 at lap 185 before in the past, you know, 10 years a couple times, and you know, I've been to that point many times. And you know, with those yellows that came after 175 or 165, I guess, there was the yellow, or yeah, a little too early, and with what happened afterward, I mean, it was a race. The thing I have to comment about is, you know, we've gone through this now of you know, new cars and new engines, and you know, there were a lot of unknowns going into today's race, and you know, it turned out to be what I thought. I mean, it was a great race. There was a hell of a lot of passing on, but at the end, there wasn't anybody saving fuel at the end there. You know, we were at mid-race. I know we were sort of saving fuel at the 100-lap mark, kind of trying to come up with some sort of strategy of, you know, how we're going to get to the finish. And but at the end, it was, you know, it was as fast as anybody could go, I can assure you.
Absolutely. And Mike, I reflect back on Dario's birthday. He was in here on pole day, and he was very professional. I mean, it wasn't particularly a happy guy. He was a little frustrated. He wanted to have more speed. Felt he had a good race car. Did anything change in the interim, or was it just a good race car, and that's what proved at the end of the day?
I think actually what happened was just a blessing in a way that we qualified. I hate to say that like that because we're not used to doing that. You know, starting that far back in the turbulence is not what we've done it in and out for quite a long time. But it makes you work really, really hard on your race car. And we had a really good Thursday before the qualifying weekend with Dario and Scott. Really, really good. And found a good mechanical balance, and then we carried that into Sunday after qualifying, and I think our guys did half a race those 2 days a piece, and we learned an awful lot about how to be ready mechanically to race here. Honda certainly jumped their game up a bit with the race engines we received, and also the mileage and the mapping and all the things they work on. So, and I would also say that unlike some people, our tires were really good all the way through a run mechanically. You know, you notice we did those long green runs, and we didn't give anything up all the way through. So, I'd say not qualifying well contributed probably the most to what we did today.
Open up to questions.
Well, this is for Chip and Mike. Dario just has this unbelievable ability to be a master of the moment. Today was a perfect example of it. What is it about him that he's able to do that, and also the fact that he came from the back of the pack to get back up to the front after the incident on pit road?
I just think it's, you know, I remember Dario when I first met him, I think was at Toronto in 1996, and he was driving for, was that 1997, and he was driving for Carl Hogan, and I remember meeting him, and I mean, you know, you have to remember, these guys have been in a lot of races since then, and, you know, seen a lot of things, you know, he's been through a lot of the changes in the sport, and a lot of the, you know, different cars, different tires, different engines, different series, different this, different that. You know, he's sort of, you know, he's the kind of guy you'd like to have because he's sort of been there, done that. You know, so when it comes to a day like today, and we were last after the first pit stop, you know, it didn't sort of, it was never, there was never one word about that. It wasn't like, oh man. There was never nobody on the team. Nobody said anything. They came in, they changed the front wing, and he went out and he said, "All right, okay." You know, before you know it, he was about 23rd, and the next thing you know, he was 16th. The next thing you know, he was 10th, and yeah. So it was, you know, that's the kind of guy you want.
Right.
You know, I'd only say that because of Chip and his ability to be able to. As a race driver, I think he was a race driver before he was an owner, and race drivers understand race drivers. I think that's an advantage for us. He understands the difference between one driver that has talent and another one that has talent. It's that extra ingredient that's really important. So when it comes time to fill a slot, we fill a slot. And in Dario's case, we've got a guy that hasn't reached his midlife crisis yet, that drives with the experience of his age, but he comes to work every day with the enthusiasm and the intent of an 18-year-old. And that's a pretty tough combination to beat. And then what he does is he's absolutely unselfish. In motor racing around the world with two-driver teams, how many teams can say that? I don't think there's one, except this team. That's, of course, I have a biased opinion. But the two drivers that we have that work together as one got us to the front today. And that's made a big difference over time.
Well, my first question was asked, so it was answered, so I'll come up with another one. Chip and Mike both, could each of you talk about, I mean, this team today just seems so perfectly orchestrated, and also it became very clear early on that you were getting 2 or 3 laps better fuel mileage than the Chevrolets. Did you guys know going in you were going to have that advantage, or did it just emerge in the race? Could you just talk about that part of it and the total orchestration of the team?
Well, I think, Eddie, for us to say, we don't know anything about the Chevrolets, and I don't know, that was that we noticed that after the first pit stop, and that enables you to look at some other strategies maybe. But we had no idea where we were going to be, where we were going to run. Believe me, I mean, I tell you, when we came in here with more unknowns this year than any other year. I mean, in our race meeting, all we talked about were unknowns, and we had to be prepared for a lot of different scenarios.
But as the race started and wore on, it looked like you guys, if you had to guess, you'd say you guys were going in there with everything known better than any other team at the racetrack.
I can tell you this.
You made it
You
look that way.
weren't in our race shop the Monday after qualifying, or on the phone with the chairman of Target the Monday after qualifying. And in a meeting with Honda, soon after that. It was not to say it wasn't our finest moment. Yeah.
Chip, I've known you for many years, Mike. I've talked to you a few times over the years. You guys stick a lot. And you've always said on the radio, don't take each other out. Now we're going into 10 laps left to go. What did you think when you saw it on the TV that Sato was going to come up past Dario?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of, it didn't really have me worried because, going into turn 1, I thought, well, we'll have a shot at him either on the back straightaway or coming to the start-finish line. So I wasn't really, I wasn't overly concerned. I mean, it was a good thing Dario raced him down to the corner. Maybe he knew something different. I don't know, but I was all set up for another, Cornish Marco finisher, kind of looking like at the end there, like remember when they came and passed from, from turn 4 to start. So, what was the question?
What went through your mind when you saw Sato coming up, like he's going to take?
Yeah, I mean, I knew he had a good car. I knew he had a good engine. I knew he had, he's a formidable competitor, and I knew he had the right engine. So I was, I knew, but I wasn't worried. I got to tell you, I wasn't overly concerned because I thought we could get him on the back straightaway again, or come to the start finish.
Well, as you said, we do have a it's not a written rule, but a rule that if you do hit each other, you better make sure that the ride that you get after that's in the airback ambulance. But what's really good about the two guys we have is they respect each other on the racetrack. And Dario is overwhelmed by winning, and Scott Dixon is overwhelmed by losing. but they still pull for each other all the way to the end. And if it would have been those two and not Sato, it would have been a clean finish at the end. Not that it wasn't a clean finish as it happened, but you know what? It's great that what we saw today was a motor race. We didn't see a fuel economy race for the last 15 laps of the race, and I think that that's really important for IndyCar racing. You can't always have a solar system program where that happens at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, because you have this lap you try to get to so you can be full to finish. But I think the race today was fantastic, and if you could pull the strings every time so everybody had full fuel for the last 10 or 15 laps, we'd see that. We would have seen it last year, year before, year before, year before. Because everybody's looking around going, God, does that guy have enough fuel? Does he have enough? Why is he only going 202 miles an hour? Why is that guy going 218? Why did he just run out of fuel? The announcers can't keep up with it. The people in the grandstands can't keep up with it. We just need to see a motor race like we saw today at the end. You'd almost be better off to have Bo Barfield say, okay, everybody in the pits for fuel with 10 laps to go. Just so you could see a trophy dash.
Careful.
Yeah. You could see a trophy, you know, what we saw today was a trophy dash. You know, at 490 miles, we saw a trophy dash, and that was awesome. That was really, really good. And it shows what the quality is all the way through the field for what you saw today.
Chip, speaking of that fuel strategy, a year ago, Scott Dixon really felt he could have won the race if things had played out differently with fuel. When Newgarden got stalled there in 164, were there some anxieties about the fuel though? And secondly, will you look at this race and at some point you were 1, 2, 3, and 4 with all your drivers? Something you talked about at some point of being unbelievable, but could you imagine that or envision that actually happening in this race?
Well, yeah, you know, there's always that. It doesn't matter how big the fuel tank is or what mileage you get. You know, you have when you have a full fuel tank. Look, pick the number. You know, it'll go 30 laps, it'll go 25 laps, it'll go 35 laps. We've been all over the board on those things. You know, it doesn't matter what number it is. It always happens that 3 laps before you get to that number, there seems to be a yellow. Now, I can assure you, Newgarden didn't do that on purpose because he's a fellow Honda team, so I can assure you that wasn't any skullduggery there. But I mean, to have it happen, on 163 or whatever that happened, or 162, it was right around there, 165, whatever that was.
Yeah, the problem with what happened there was too early.
It was too early. We needed to go about 5 more laps, and then we didn't.
Yeah, the problem was the window was
Yeah.
opening up for us, and what happened at that point is we took a full fuel load. We still needed 12 more gallons, 12 gallons of fuel.
Right.
So if he would have done it on purpose for us 10 laps later, it would have been awesome. But it didn't. It was not. We kind of pounded the desk there when that happened.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Chip and Mike, you had those meetings, and you only had one practice session before the race after that. So what did you find out in that one short practice that changed things?
Well, Dick, it's we're in this business every day, and with Mike and the group of people he's put together here in Indianapolis, and the continuity of the people, you do build up a sort of an information library, if you will, over the years of being here, and it's a real advantage to have consistency in your people and consistency in your your MO, how you do things, the way you go about it. So we worked throughout the first week there. We were on track a lot, working on our car, and it paid off when we eliminated some variables. There were lots and lots of variables this year with, again, new cars, new engines, new manufacturers. There were lots of unknowns, and we just, Mike and his group of people went through a list of, they just went down a list of things they had to try. It wasn't very exciting, and we weren't at the top of the speed charts every day, and we were just going through and working our way through our normal list. And there were some other exciting things going on that we weren't involved in. And believe me, I was last Saturday after qualifying during the Fast 10 or whatever, Fast 9, I was on my way way to Charlotte to the stock car race. You know, I was just, I wasn't in it, we weren't in it, and I was sort of depressed a little bit, you know, I wanted to get out of here. So, this brought me back today.